It's showtime.
Carl, what's up?
What's going on? Just the two of you guys today, huh?
Skeleton crew.
Mark is
How
on
many
vacation.
phone calls to Mark did you make today?
None. I don't want to disturb him while he's on his vacation. But I did chip. I asked Bentley for some pointers earlier, so he's helping me out.
Things are okay so far, Carl. No problem.
That's awesome. That's
Everything's
awesome.
fine.
I was worried for our buddy Brandon.
Well, I said, well, we could have Carl do it. Carl could record it. Brandon wasn't having it.
I said, I'll take care of it. We'll do it live. Fuck it.
Hey, so what's new in the Dabbleverse, Carl? Anything quickly we need to know about?
Well, John's back on Cameo again.
Oh,
So we've been getting some new cameos from Stuttering John that we've been playing on the show. But we had an excellent episode of Point Dabble Point yesterday.
I heard a lot of it. Yeah.
Oh, good. Okay. If you're not familiar, Point Dabble Point is a weekly show I do with Shuli, and we bring in other guests who are interested in Stuttering John and the Dabbleverse.
Yeah, it's the week in
And,
Stuttering John, essentially.
Yeah, the Stuttering John Roundtable. And we had an amazing guest on yesterday, Ricky Melton, the guy who recently hired John to perform stand-up comedy in the backyard of some bar in St. Petersburg, Florida. And we listened to the audio of it. John's act is terrible, and the fans did not appreciate him at all. So we got Ricky's perspective on it, which was fantastic.
There were just so many classic moments there. The one, or a few I love, one was that he went to the wrong address. Went to another club?
Yeah, so this place was a brewery. And it was If I Brewed the World was the name of the place. So Ricky sends John the name of the place and the address so that John could punch that into his GPS and get to the place. Well, John goes to this place called Three Daughters Brewing or something. It's just like, it's in the vicinity, but it's not the same place.
Right.
And so this guy, Ricky, goes, hey, man, you're at the wrong place. I'm here right now and you're not here. And John's like, oh, you're trolling me. His immediate thought was that Ricky was messing with him rather than realize he was in the wrong place. So Ricky had to walk down to this other place, find John, and then bring him back with him.
Oh, my God. And then John said, yeah, I was really making some time with the ladies back at the other place. If you want me to go back and bring them over here? Because the crowd wasn't that big.
Yeah, he was hitting on all the hot chicks over there. And apparently the night before he was down in Fort Lauderdale getting laid.
Oh, wow.
That's odd, because I saw one of his tweets that's saying he's now dating a lawyer.
Oh, God.
Yeah, so look out.
What?
That's
He's
what he
been
tweeted.
talking about whenever he tweets or get on social media or even on Cameo, all he talks about how much poontang he's getting lately. He's slaying it.
Well, how about some pictures?
No kidding.
I mean, just like we got the picture of Kate Meany, macking with him at the
Listen,
restaurant.
guys, I don't want to tell tales out of school, but Drew is with a different groupie every night of the week. You never hear brag about it.
No, of course not.
That's what you do when you're a gentleman.
That's true.
You know?
If you're really getting a lot, you don't tell people you're getting a lot.
Like maybe if the paparazzi sees them on your boat, you might get busted, but as long as that doesn't happen, you don't have to talk about it.
Well, I mean, generally when you reach the age of maybe 65 or 70, you stop talking about all those chicks you're slaying, but not when you're 59 like John.
Yeah, he's going to be 60 this year, and he can't stop talking about how he's getting laid all the time.
It's so embarrassing. I can't believe that. And then there was another funny story about, I think, didn't Todd ask, what's the guy's name, Ricky?
Ricky Melton, yeah.
He's a nice guy. He talked to Ricky about Chad Zumach, like, you hate Chad Zumach, don't you? And he knew Chad a little bit, and they had a conversation. Then the next thing you know, John's talking to virtually complete strangers about what an asshole Chad is.
Yeah, like people were coming up to get their photos with him or something, and all John wanted to talk about was Chad Zumach and how we put a letter on John's door earlier that day, and John had to call the cops on him. Like in John's world, everything is the Dabbleverse. He can't separate himself and just do his show.
And these are people who probably have no idea what he's talking about.
None of them had any clue what he was talking about. There's only one person who purchased a ticket because they found out Stuttering John was on, and that was the guy who recorded the show so that we could hear it. No one else there knew who he was.
They had a promo code.
Yes.
Which is scary for John.
There's a promo code and only one person used it.
I hope comedy clubs aren't going with promo codes because that will mean the end of John, other than people from the Dabbleverse going. That's a terrible thing for him.
Yeah, I don't know. I think John could do pretty well if he started doing shows up near, like, anywhere in the Northeast. I bet he'd get some people out in the Dabbleverse.
Yeah,
out to
sure.
see it.
For sure. And some people just Howard Stern fans or, I don't know, maybe.
Or Blind Mike's entire crew.
Or a Tonight Show fan, maybe. But there was one other thing. he was talking about how, well, would you have him back? And even though he gave John a 2 on a scale of 1 to 10, which is not a 2, he said, yeah, I think I would if he just wouldn't drink so much. So apparently he's drinking a lot before the show. Then he stuck around for a few beers, which he paid for himself, which I was stunned to hear. And then he said... And then he says something.
I got to interrupt you real quick, Drew.
Okay.
You just reminded me one of the funniest stories. So they're at this place called If I Brewed the World, which is a microbrewery where they make their own beer there. And so I asked, well, what was John drinking? Because John usually drinks like Coors Lights, and he likes to drink like light, shitty beer. And the guy goes, oh, they do sell PBR in a can there. So John was drinking PBR, which is so insulting when you go into a microbrewery and drink PBR.
And he is a beer drinker, too. You'd think, that's ridiculous. But he talking about how, well, I might have him back if he didn't drink so much before the show. And then I hear about more beers after. I'm thinking, wow, damn, sounds like he'd be hammered. And then he just kind of casually mentioned that then he left and drove home. And he was 2 hours away, right?
Yeah, he had to drive from St. Petersburg to Cape Coral to file some police report. So he's like, I got to leave early because I got to go file this police report. And meanwhile, Ricky said he estimated John had 20 beers in 2 hours.
Wow.
How the fuck did he drive home? That's insane. And he offered him he said, I'll get you a hotel.
I got a high tolerance.
But he had to file the police report. That's right.
Right. He was a busy guy that night.
I wonder if his picture is on the wall at every police department soon, every FBI office. Do not file a report with this guy.
He does talk about calling the police department in Tampa because of Chad, Cape
Rochester
Coral all the time,
Rochester,
Alabama, Rochester, LA, and then of course all the FBI field offices. It's really wasting a lot of resources. I hope that Elon Musk looks into this.
We need Doge on this.
Exactly. We should send Doge a note. All right. So you sent me the show on Bill Maher and this mob guy, Michael Franzese, who I wasn't really familiar with, but I thought the guy acquitted himself fairly well. Why was he on the show, Carl?
Well, so he's a big fan of Bill Maher, and he has his own podcast. It's got more of a right-leaning agenda, but he likes that Bill Maher has been coming out and kind of speaking truth to power with the Democratic Party. Yeah. And we've all been talking about that. Yeah. Like Bill Maher's the one guy who's saying, we got to stop with the trans children stuff. It's not winning us any votes. And just trying to be a realist about what's working, what's not working with Democrats. And Democrats don't like that about Bill.
No, he gets a lot of shit. I personally, I can't take somebody, if you're a complete partisan, even if you're Ben Shapiro or Bill Maher isn't, but I mean, like a Ben Shapiro who is very smart, I just can't get my information from you. You're never going to point anything out that's bad in your own party.
Yeah, who would go to Sean Hannity for news?
No.
It's ridiculous.
And he's good at what he does, but...
Sure.
I just, partisanship at this point, I just don't even hardly understand it. But there are a lot of partisans out there. But Bill had just had Kid Rock on the TV show Friday night. And it went very well. I mean, they had some good laughs, and they really didn't get nasty.
The audience was thrilled to see Kid Rock there. He got a great ovation.
Yeah,
they responded positive to everything he said.
That was strange. I didn't expect that at all.
Yeah, that was interesting.
So I was really, because I thought, why is Carl sending me this? This seems like a kind of, I didn't know. I figured you knew what you were doing, but I turned on, I started listening, and before long, Maher is really getting angry at this guy. He's pissed.
So what's interesting about this, the reason why I wanted to check it out. So Bill Maher has 654,000 subs. This episode came out 2 days ago on the 16th. It has 136,000 views. And all of the top comments underneath it, this is on Bill's channel, are all calling Bill out.
Oh, for getting so pissed?
Yeah, for the way he treated his guests, because this guy was very respectful to Bill right from the get-go. He's like, I really appreciate you. I actually saw you 25 years ago. I wanted to come up and say hi, but I never did. I've been a fan for a long time, like all this kind of stuff. And this guy wrote a book called Mafia Democracy, where he compares the U.S. federal government to the mafia. And this guy knows the mafia. His dad was Sonny Franzese.
Yeah,
Senior.
he was an underboss.
Yeah, right. So they've been around a long time. He actually has been indicted 7 different times and never convicted.
He seems like he's a good guy. Dude. He seemed like a nice guy, and I thought he knew a lot. He's obviously a total Trumper, but I've just never seen Bill he just was really angry. I don't know why he was so cranky.
So let's start with clip 1, Brandon. So talking about, the basic premise of this book, and Bill asks, why do you think the country is run like the mafia?
there is some of that in government. I mean, what would you tell me? You wrote the book. What are some examples of that?
To me, it's just all about power and control, Bill.
Well, that's vague. You're going to have to do better.
Well, power and control, meaning that these people get into office, they get intoxicated with the power, they never want to leave, as evidenced by, most of our Congress people, and they enrich themselves.
Yeah, but give me a specific example of how the government acts like the mafia.
Well, there again, I mean, it's all about, what are we all about? We wanted to make money, and we wanted to stay in control of people. And the government operates the same way, in my opinion.
Give me an example.
I mean, listen, I don't throw one blanket over everybody in government. There are honest people there, I'm not saying that. But I think the mechanism has now become really all about power and control.
So you can see right there that Bill's coming into this like, no, I like the government. I donate money to the government. I think it helps people. And I don't like that this guy's comparing it to the mafia. So he is already turned off by this idea and wants to shut it down.
Well, the fact that these people run for re-election over and over and over tells you they don't want to give up their position.
Well, yeah, and he brings up some really good points about how these politicians go in when they're middle-class people and then come out very wealthy. My clip number 2 is him kind of describing this.
They come into power, they're middle-class people, they don't have a lot of money, and they go out millionaires, multimillionaires, many of them. How do you explain that?
Oh no, there is graft.
Yeah.
I mean, that characterizes, well, finally we have a guy in office who that does characterize.
Who's that?
Donald Trump. You may have heard of him. He won the election again.
Yeah, but he had money before he came into office. He didn't come into government to make money.
Yeah. Are you fucking kidding me?
No.
So that was a weird thing. The guy, it describes the people who go in who are, not wealthy, but doing fine. And then fast forward 2 decades, and they're multimillionaires.
Yeah, that's
with
weird.
multiple houses. Like we see the examples of this all the time. Nancy Pelosi gets brought up.
Yeah.
Bill's confused by that, which is crazy in this episode. But why does he think Trump's an example of that?
He's a billionaire. He's got 100-story buildings all over the place. He's got golf courses in other countries. We know he's built giant stuff. That's not to say he's the greatest business person of all time, but obviously he's pretty damn successful. I know people always go, he went bankrupt in election. Okay, he's not perfect. He's not the best person ever, but he is a billionaire, and he did not start out a billionaire.
And I don't think he's going to get even richer off of this presidency. He's already,
Well, people were protesting a lot of his businesses too, and trying to force people not to stay there or go there. I mean,
Didn't his daughter lose her deal with Target to run her clothing line?
No, there was an attempted boycott, which some people were going in and shoplifting Ivanka's clothes intentionally and bragging about it on Twitter. I mean, that's not to suggest that their businesses went to hell. He also had people who were coming in to visit the federal government for whatever reason and who would stay at the Trump Hotel in D.C. I know people made a big deal about that.
Right.
Trump did have a meme coin. He sold sneakers, but this is all in front of our faces. That doesn't mean it's okay, but I mean it's not the double dealing stuff that you usually see.
Right, and it's not the example that Michael's talking about here. Obviously, did Trump benefit from being the president now twice? Very possibly.
Well, he also got convicted of 34 felonies, not allowed to do business in New York.
Yes, no, there's a lot of stress too, and yet he still persevered. And
if I were him, I would rather be the old Donald Trump who never ran for president. But I mean, I'm not him. Obviously, he has energy levels that I can only dream of.
So what you're going to hear here, and what's really interesting about this whole dynamic, and the reason why all the commenters are turning on Bill, is because Bill is accusing this Michael guy of just sticking up for Trump because he likes Trump,
right.
And so he doesn't think he's doing anything wrong. But meanwhile, we're going to watch Bill stick up for all the guys he likes, and starting with my clip number 3, perfect example, talking about Barack Obama.
All right, well, let me ask you the difference. He came in as a wealthy guy. We're not counting his money, but we knew he was wealthy. What about Obama? He didn't come in wealthy.
And he didn't leave up with that kind of wealth.
Well, he's worth, from what I'm hearing now, he's worth $100 million.
I doubt if he's worth $100 million. That's
what I heard.
But that's what I heard. That's what Trump says.
Yeah.
That's what I heard. People are saying, well, it must be true. Come on,
look
man.
at his life. Come on, look at his lifestyle.
Oh, look,
I'm not saying he's not entitled to it afterward, but I'm saying he became a very wealthy guy.
See, Bill's not going to win this argument downplaying whether Obama's extremely wealthy or not. He is.
Well, he got a $30 million deal from Spotify and then put out shows that no one listened to, and he probably didn't give a shit about, and he was trying to get other people's shows under his own deal. I mean...
Didn't he get a Netflix deal, too, for making documentaries?
He did, and he's put out several.
And book deals, and his wife got a book deal, and then she did a pre-book deal tour and charged $29.99 to be at Little Caesars Arena. That sold that out, didn't they?
I think so.
Yeah, so this whole idea that Obama isn't a perfect example of a guy who came in, who didn't have a lot of means, and then made tens, if not hundreds of millions of dollars from being a politician.
Bill Clinton, too, made a lot of money. He could have brought him up.
Hillary,
oh my
God, a lot of these people. So Bill goes on to say after this, he goes, well, Obama didn't get into it for the money, though. And Michael's like, how do you know that? What do you mean? It's so weird how Bill has these blinders on, because later they talk about Nancy Pelosi, and he says that she didn't get into it for the money or anything. So it's all a very odd conversation they're having.
Yeah, I just thought Bill was much pissier than I have ever seen him in an interview, and I wouldn't expect him to really like his position or his arguments, but he's very disrespectful and dismissive here.
Especially when you consider how he was talking to Kid Rock and how he's been dealing with other right-leaning people or even Trump supporters on his show. He's been a lot more respectful lately.
But this is a mob guy. You'd think he'd go a little easy on him, if anything.
Right.
I would. Well, speaking of the mob, so then Michael starts talking about how, you know, with the mafia, the feds would start investigating people to figure out what crimes they've committed, rather than what they're supposed to do, find a crime and then figure out who did it. A very different way of, you know, obviously they call it lawfare in this. So he's comparing that to what they've done to Trump during his presidency and then after the presidency. And if you go into my clip number 4, and so Bill is just trying to deflect this as if, no. This has everything to do with just the fact that you like Trump.
Bill, these crimes that they allege, these are all nonsense.
They're not all nonsense. I just listed why they weren't.
No, let me. No,
you don't care. You just like him. I like who you like.
I don't
you don't
like
listen
him.
to the logic about it or the facts. You just like him.
No.
It's okay.
I'll give
You're
you
entitled.
Let me give
just
you
don't
logic.
Bullshit me, man.
Let me give you logic and facts. Okay.
Yeah,
I told you I had 3 racketeering indictments.
Okay, so Bill doesn't even want the guy to talk, because Bill, all he was talking about was the election denial. He goes, no, Trump committed a lot of crimes. He brought up examples around the election denial. And Michael's going, yeah, but they tried to prosecute him for this and this and this, and none of it was true. And so Bill's just like, oh, whatever. You just like Trump. You just could, stick it up for him for that reason.
Well, there were 2 district attorneys who ran for office on nailing Trump in one area that was 94% Democratic. So, running on nailing one guy, and then you've got a jury pool that is the majority people who absolutely can't stand him. That's a little selective, isn't it?
I think we all see what happened here.
Yeah.
And
and he won the election after 34 felonies and another conviction. I mean, really?
And the popular vote.
And the rape or the sexual assault conviction, the $89 million, what was that, defamation? $89 million to E. Jean Carroll?
But even before that stuff, and who knows what happened there, but you look at the first impeachment, and that was all over this Russiagate hoax. And they took, 2.5 years to figure out that was all made up?
People won Pulitzer Prizes off of that. And it did nothing. It went nowhere.
Right. But so then Michael brings up what Joe Biden has been up to over the past, 12 years or so. This is my clip number 5. Bill doesn't want to hear this.
The information and the evidence that was uncovered by the GOP investigation on Joe Biden and Hunter Biden and his family, there was more evidence than there was in any one of my racketeering indictments. Joe Biden is treasonous.
Yeah, listen to me. I agree. I'm agreeing with you.
Okay, he's treasonous.
He's not treasonous.
Yes, he is. He sold out his vice presidency. That's treason. For money.
For fuck's sake. You just don't like him, so that's treason.
Bill,
but you're a guy.
Bill, no. Let me tell you. You know why I don't like him?
Oh, for fuck's sake.
I don't like him because he's a liar.
Isn't that funny how flustered Bill is? Oh,
Bill
for
is
fuck's
pissed.
sake.
He's talking under his breath.
People in the comments were even saying, Bill loves to say to other people, well, you don't know that. You're making that up. And then this guy says that to him and he goes, oh, for fuck's sake. Can we just agree Trump sucks and Joe's fine?
Well, also, just because you don't like Joe Biden doesn't mean that 51 Intel people didn't sign a lie just to keep it off the table, the laptop, before the election. I mean, that seemed a little like election interference. I mean, if you're going to call stuff election interference.
Yeah, and Joe came out. So this is what Michael was saying. He's like, Joe Biden came out and said the laptop was fake and also those 51 intelligence agents. But at the same time, the FBI had already verified that it was real.
Yeah.
They just didn't tell anyone, or not the public, I guess, right?
And then a lot of the media knew about that too, and they still acted like, oh, it's just a New York tabloid that says it, so it's not real. It's Russian disinformation because 51 people said it, even though they were asked to do it by somebody from the Biden campaign.
Right.
So I don't know why Bill gets so angry about this. I mean, that is really what he was saying was more or less true. I mean.
Yeah, Bill was not having it. So Michael continues to talk about how, well, you got to realize there's shell companies involved. Like when you really look into what Joe Biden was doing as the vice president with Hunter and the deals they were having with these foreign, not only companies, but foreign governments. And so my clip number 6, Michael explains, like, I know all about this shit.
He had 18 shell companies that did nothing. There was no brick and mortar behind them. There was no employees. All they did was collect money. How do I know about that? I had 21 shell companies when I was defrauding the government out of tax on every gallon of gas. I know the whole system. He sold out his vice presidency. He sold it out. He's treasonous.
Yeah,
and he lies. The guy lies. He don't even know how to tell the truth. And he destroyed the country.
Treasonous. If we were at war and he was selling secrets to them, we weren't.
Well, how do we know what he did for the money? Bill, how do we know
I know what he did for the money.
He
got his ne'er-do-well crackhead son a job in an energy company when he knew nothing about energy.
Is that okay?
It's not okay, but you have no perspective on what is the bigger crime. You just like the guy you like.
No, I
so
don't.
Everything he does, you see through rose-colored glasses.
Bill, you're wrong.
And this other guy,
no, you're wrong.
It's okay. It's
no,
what most of the country is like.
I would tell you.
Just don't ask me to respect it as critical thinking.
Facts?
This is Bill Maher. He's got his fingers in his ears going, la, 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 I don't want to hear about it, la, 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 la. And at the same time saying, you're just being a partisan.
Right. I would like to, because I don't understand this part of it. I've read it, and it's usually glossed over because it's very complicated. I would love to know what all these shell companies Hunter Biden had were and how that worked in terms of getting money back into Rosemont Seneca. Because I'm not an accountant, and I'm not somebody that does this, but it would have been interesting to hear how he did that.
Wouldn't it be cool if there was like a journalist who was interested in that and did some research and investigations?
Or if there was a journalist who was interested in it, but he knew it wouldn't fuck his career if he really got into it, like Catherine Herridge at CBS.
Yeah, that's the problem right there, because this is fascinating. It's a crazy story if we can get to the bottom of it.
I know, it is. And everything on that laptop is he had porn videos on Pornhub, and no one talked about it. What the fuck? That's
Guys,
pretty
he's
fascinating.
addicted to crack. Everyone addicted to crack, sleeps with hookers,
I know.
uploads the video.
No, the story is that he's better now. He's found sobriety, and we don't want to spoil that by talking about this stupid stuff.
You know what's crazy? Remember when cocaine was found in the White House? And then they never figured out who brought it in?
No.
It was just like, we have a couple cameras, but we couldn't see a good angle of it. so
Whatever.
just moving on.
I know it's really bizarre to think of all the shit that's happened the last 8-10 years and how it's been covered and how it hasn't been covered. I mean, it's nuts. It's totally nuts. And the fact that someone, literally had the media's defense attorney going, oh, if you see something and he looks really slow or out of it, it's a deep fake.
Right, yeah, cheap fake.
What?
Cheap fake, yeah.
Yeah.
And then when he goes into the debate and he sucks, it's like, oh, he's got to go. Get this fucking guy out of here. I mean,
It was great
overnight.
yesterday. What happened?
But there's really, it seems like that would be another great story. It seemed like you'd have multiple books coming out now about that, about how they hid him.
I think books will be written.
Yeah, it'll come.
Yeah, at some point. But
Yeah.
I don't know how interested people will be in those books.
But there were horrible books about Trump. Woodward wrote a couple while he was president.
Yep. Yeah, and never has to name his sources. And then as soon as he says that Trump did a thing, that gets repeated nonstop through every media outlet. They're like, well, it was reported by this guy who won the Pulitzer back in '74 or whatever it was. So obviously, we have to take it as the gospel.
No, it's been a very, very strange period. So anyway, did you listen to the whole show?
I didn't get through the whole show, but I have one more clip I want to play for you.
Okay.
Because this sums up what's so wrong about Bill Maher's thinking in this episode. And what he's talking about here is how Trump handled the January 6th protest.
Look, he's Donald Trump. Do I think he played it wrong? Of course. He's Donald Trump.
So Bill is showing his bias. He's just like, well, yeah, of course, everything Donald Trump does is wrong. I mean, everyone knows that. But he's has a real problem with his guest saying like, no, Nancy Pelosi's corrupt and Obama and
Nancy Pelosi's daughter is corrupt. Yeah, Nancy Pelosi's daughter was there with a camera. Why was she there with a camera? No, he's obviously very much a partisan. I mean, totally a partisan. From what I could tell, I didn't hear the whole show, and I'm not a partisan on either side. I could never be. But when he gets to asking about, what about Kamala? You really want Kamala to be president? And I'm thinking, oh, that's a pretty good question, to ask Bill Maher, who's being so contentious. And Maher more or less acts as if, Kamala Harris, at least she respects the peaceful transfer of power.
There you go.
Yeah,
So
he
that
always
makes you-
goes back to that. He always goes back to the election denial. That's like his big thing. Because remember, Bill Maher's guys predicted that Trump wouldn't leave office.
Well, he left office.
He did.
Yeah.
But Bill
He
Maher
was an asshole about it, I
predicting
agree.
forever that he wasn't going to.
No, it was January 6th was a shitty thing. I agree. It's very complicated, and sometimes people like to say there were 25 FBI agents, so it doesn't count. And I don't agree with that, but I don't agree with giving these guys complete pardons either. I mean, some of those people did things that were worse than others, and some didn't do much, and it was just a horrible, shitty thing. But as far as saying that someone's a great presidential candidate or even a good presidential candidate because they respect the peaceful transfer of power, I mean, that's really not a thing. That's
To raise the bar a little bit from that.
I would say.
The other thing that happened in the show, Drew, you listened to it, is Bill's a huge fan of mob movies. And so he was quoting The Godfather, Godfather 2, Goodfellas, A Bronx Tale. He's just quoting all this shit. And fortunately, Michael's in all those movies too, so he knows it. So he's like playing along.
He's in all those movies?
He's into,
He's
into them.
Into those.
Oh, into them, yeah.
They're all about him in a sense.
Yeah.
Wow.
So that was interesting that like Bill was kind of fangirling out about the mafia for a while.
Oh, so he settled in with him. Does Michael does a podcast too, doesn't he?
Yes, he talked about his podcast quite a bit on there.
That might be interesting. Also, oh God, who's the guy that killed 20 people and testified against Gotti?
Sammy the Bull.
Sammy the Bull Gravano. He has a podcast. And it's funny, I hear him being really judgy about people doing stuff, in present day. It's really funny when a guy that killed 20 people judges somebody for something much smaller.
Did you see Bill was trying to get Michael to admit to murder?
Yeah.
And there was a weird part where Bill's like asking a pretty pointy question, and finally Michael just goes, listen, I was in a very violent industry for 20 years where I sometimes had to commit violence. Can we move on?
Wow.
It was interesting.
Yeah, I'm not that familiar with Michael, but I think I'm going to check his podcast out. He's probably, if he's not talking about Trump all the time, if he's talking about mob stuff, I'd probably enjoy it because I love mob movies too. I mean, who doesn't?
Right.
Oh, yeah. So I go back and rewatch Sopranos every couple of years.
Yeah, I'd like to go and rewatch. How is it the second time?
Oh, it's even better. I promise you, it's better the second time.
Do you have a favorite show that you've rewatched, by the way?
Wow. For me, it's probably South Park and The Simpsons because that's just where I'm at.
I'm kind of in the same boat, South Park. Yeah.
I could go back and rewatch. I just watched Sarcastiball the other day because I'm like, oh my gosh, the NFL. I mean, these guys predict this shit way ahead of time. They got rid of the kickoff and they changed the kickoff rules.
Yeah.
That's how Sarcastiball starts. It's great.
Yeah, and The Simpsons there are some great. Is there a favorite Simpsons season of yours that you rewatch?
Or
seasons?
Yeah, seasons 4 through 12 are all fantastic. Season 8 is one that sticks out to me. The Poochie episode, one of my favorites because it pretty much is making fun of the critics who say, oh, the show has gotten old and it's not interesting anymore and it's played out. And that was season 8 out of what, 34 that ended up happening.
Wow.
So
When's the last time you watched The Simpsons, the current one?
I don't watch the current.
Isn't that funny?
You know what? I did watch the one. It might have been this past September where Conan O'Brien was on it and presenting the this is going to be our last episode thing. That was interesting. That was a good one.
Yeah, I've seen a couple Homer-centric episodes that were recent, and they were pretty damn funny. And I was trying to, like, why am I not watching this show or at least checking on it every week? But I don't. I don't know if it's just too many years.
I think it got really bad for a spell, and then it's gotten better in recent years. But
people
gotten
haven't
out of
gone
that
back.
habit.
Yeah.
Okay, so Corey Feldman was on a podcast too with who's it, Mario Lopez?
Lopez.
Yeah.
All right, so this is a show called On with Mario Lopez Daily Podcast. Now, this is obviously a radio show that they convert into a daily podcast, and he has a guest on. This is a bizarre interview. I'm glad you found this, Drew.
Brandon found it. Credit where credit's due.
Found it. So
yeah.
This was just last week, right? That he dropped this as a recent
it's
episode.
a new one.
All right, so my clip number 8, it starts off with a question that all of these celebrities like to ask each other. How long have we known each other?
So it's funny because when you came in here, we were talking about how long we've known each other, and you actually performed at my high school, Chula Vista High School. That must have been 30-something years ago, man.
Dude, I think it was
right.
It was more than that.
Maybe more than that, right?
Because, well, we knew each other since we were like 17, I think.
Yeah, from way back in the day.
Yeah, because I mean, like, I'm trying to think. Did I know you before I got sober?
So I just wanted to all the Hollywood types out there. This is how you handle this. We go way back. Done. Moving on.
When were you lucky enough to meet me?
When did you meet me?
Yes.
And of course, you're following my entire life. Was that before I got sober?
Oh, I know. This gets crazy right here because there's a question about like, oh, dude, that's awesome. You got sober. Like, what was your problem at the time? And like clip number 9, Mario Lopez is kind of a dummy.
Oh my God, he sounds like such a square.
Yeah.
I remember us all meeting up when I lived in Encino. A lot of times we would actually have the meeting to go to those games at my house in Encino. And that was like when I had first gotten sober.
How long have you been sober now?
30 years.
30 years.
But I mean, it was 35 since then. So that was 35 years ago that I actually started the journey. And then after 5 years, I relapsed and was out for like 6 months and then got
How bad did it get at one point? How bad were you partying?
When I was back in the day?
Yeah, back in the day.
Oh, dude, I wasn't partying. I was on an isolated train to hell. I mean,
really?
Oh, yeah.
Just all substances?
No, I mean, like my drug of choice was heroin.
Oh, wow, that's a serious one. And usually people don't get off that.
Right.
Why'd you end up on that?
This is what's so stupid about that is that he goes, so, were you partying? He goes, no. I was just a drug addict. Oh, so you're doing all the drugs?
Yeah, I don't think he knows much about drugs.
Yeah, it's pretty rare. Usually people are into speed or they're into opiates or booze or psychedelics. Like they kind of find like what they enjoy and they do that sort of thing.
They try a line or two here or there.
Sure. But then this idea is just like, well, how'd you end up on heroin? He was a child actor who was diddled. This is not that surprising.
If you watch Intervention, it's incredible how many women on heroin were sexually molested. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, it's pretty much mandatory. You go from being diddled to trying heroin.
Oh, boy. I have a feeling Mario, I think the reason is, I bet he swears off drugs because he thinks it will affect his gorgeous looks.
Yeah, well, he should comment. When they first started talking, they're just like, oh my gosh, you look so good for your age. No, man, you do. And so they're talking about like what products they use and stuff.
Oh, no, really?
And Mario Lopez goes, yeah, you know what? I think it's just the tequila I'm drinking, like trying to be the cool guy. Oh, maybe he has his own tequila.
Yeah, maybe he's got his own. He's just trying to push it.
God.
Probably. But when someone asks me, why do I look so good? I never go, well, I've been boozing pretty heavily, so maybe that's it.
Wait, well, they were actually talking about product, like
hair product?
Yeah, like skin.
Skincare.
Two guys their age talking about skincare products. Oh, my God. That is so gay.
They've been in Hollywood a long time. Well, my clip number 10. So we're going to talk about why Mario should have known that obviously Corey Feldman had a heroin problem.
You don't know the story?
Dang, dude, I
Come
don't.
on,
This got
man.
heavy quick.
Dude, yeah. Well, you asked the right questions, bro.
Dang, bro. Like, I thought you were
from
gonna
0 to
maybe-
60, man. Like,
Wow.
yeah, everybody knew. Everybody knew. I was busted for it. I mean, that's what I got in trouble
Yeah,
for in
I think it's been a minute, yeah.
1989.
Yeah, it was
So-
public knowledge.
Yeah, Corey Feldman thinks that the big stories of 1989, the Berlin Wall came down, Tenement Square massacre, Exxon Valdez oil spill, Taylor Swift was born. But no. The big story was Corey Feldman's drug bust.
You'd think for being such a great friend that Mario would have known a little more about that.
Yeah, obviously they're not great friends, and I like that he gets called out. And this is the problem with Corey Feldman. He thinks he's the biggest celebrity. That's all anyone's ever thinking about. Just like, dude, how would you not know about my arrest in 1989? I'm sorry, I was watching the World Series with the Bay Area earthquake. I was busy with that. I apologize.
What about Corey? So Corey's drummer died,
Yeah.
Yes.
And it was Steve Gadd's son, by the way. He's a great drummer. And his
Correct.
son, Duke Gadd, was Corey's drummer. Which that's sad that Steve Gadd's drummer was drumming for Corey. But anyway, Corey announced that, yeah, my drummer died. OD'd on heroin. And, of course, the family comes out and they're like, no one knows exactly why he died yet. And this is really jumping the gun. They were really pissed at him for doing that. But he sounds like he wanted some clicks, maybe.
Yeah, he did, because he came out right away and said fentanyl. Fentanyl's been killing too many people, and it killed my drummer. But then he took that post down real quick when the family got involved.
Yeah,
Yeah.
put up the selfie with him and what's his name, Steven Tyler.
Steven Tyler, right?
Yeah.
Instead.
Usually when someone dies of an overdose, the family kind of wants to hide that,
Yeah.
Sure.
right? It's not necessarily the first thing that you want to put out to the public.
Yeah, he seemed to really be, taking a megaphone to the fentanyl factor and very little about, oh my God, he's such a great guy and, we enjoyed having the band and his poor family. No, it's like, our drummer died and he was doing fentanyl.
Yeah, you would think it's in Spinal Tap. He's like, we got to get another drummer, whatever.
Corey.
No problem. All right, so let's talk about how, thank goodness, Corey Feldman, after being a heroin addict, is now sober.
It was 30 years of complete sobriety, meaning like I haven't done any hard drugs, haven't drank alcohol in 30 years.
Good for you, man. Good for you. Well, I got a lot more I want to ask. We're going to take a quick break.
Good for you. We got to take a commercial break right now.
Wait, didn't Corey leave a couple things out there?
Complete sobriety. I don't drink booze or use hard drugs.
Yeah, there's a lot of things in between.
Yeah, I'm like, wait a second. So what is included in this complete sobriety that you're talking about?
Well, I would say that means he could smoke pot
Yeah,
for sure.
He's probably California sober.
and hard
Yeah.
drugs. I mean, is Adderall a hard drug?
Are mushrooms a hard drug? I wouldn't think so.
No.
Yeah, so I wonder what that means. But he's very proud of himself, so good on him. He's not interested in taking hard drugs or drinking alcohol anymore. That's good.
He's Corey sober.
Corey
His
sober.
own
So
rules.
my clip number 12, speaking of how impressed Corey is with Corey, this is a good example of that.
Corey, you were just talking about getting clean and sober after getting addicted to heroin, man. How difficult was that?
For me, it's easy.
What?
It's easy.
For me, it's easy. What a dick thing to say.
Are we sure you were addicted to heroin? I've never heard anyone
I
say
wasn't even
that.
thinking about it in the context of his drummer just passing away. And he's just like, well, for me, it's easy. Some people have a problem with it, but I'm pretty amazing.
I've never heard anyone say it was easy to kick heroin. That makes me wonder if he was really addicted to heroin. Did he just make this up?
Well, Drew, after that, he tells the story of how he went to rehab for 10 months, inpatient rehab. And he's like, yeah, and it was a lot of work. And, the first month it didn't take. And then I had to go another 9 months. And then I relapsed 5 years later. It's just like, none of this sounds like it was easy for you.
No, that's not easy at all. That's
You're not
basically
describing the
shutting
same
your
thing you
life
just
down
said.
for a year and a half. Not easy.
All right, so they're having this pretty intense conversation around drug use and getting sober. And these conversations, you would understand this better than I do. I never was on the radio. But what does he have, like a 3-minute window for these conversations in between playing tracks?
They must play a lot of songs during this show.
Yeah, it sounds like he's really rushing the conversation.
My clip 13, I don't hear this ever anymore. This is like a old-timey interview.
I have no interest in hard drugs, no interest in alcohol. This doesn't even
Good for
faze
you.
me. Yeah.
Good for you. I'm happy to hear that. All right, hang tight. Gonna play a few more songs and come back with some more Corey.
It's so bizarre, isn't it?
It sounds so awkward.
Would you ever have a celebrity on your radio show and be like, all right, we got to play a couple songs, but then we'll come back in like 8.5 minutes and talk to you again?
Yeah, there are asshole PDs that would be like, you can have Mick Jagger on, but you better play at least 4 songs in that half hour. I mean, there really are. There are people that stupid. And why Mario is in that position, wouldn't you think that after as long as he's been having his career that they would understand it's better just do an interview straight through than play songs between every topic? It's ridiculous.
Especially with Corey Feldman. Come on.
Yeah.
Everyone wants to see the clips of this. You got to get video clips out. What are you doing?
And we're going to play a few songs? How long does he have to sit there? For an hour to do 10 minutes of interview?
Yeah, this interview didn't last very long at all. And I'm guessing it was over an hour's time because every time it stopped, he's like, all right, we'll be back after this message or these songs.
Right. Yeah, and there's only 12 minutes of interview, and he's going into a few songs. So, yeah, that's really stupid. As a guest, I'd be very annoyed. But if you're Corey Feldman, you should be happy to be a guest at all, I guess.
So they start talking about this tour he did with Limp Bizkit. Did you guys know they were on tour this past summer?
Oh, yeah, I heard about that.
Hell yeah.
We were all there. We all went to the show.
I hope he can find a new drummer.
The Corey Feldman band opened for Limp Bizkit. And so the question comes up in my next clip here about being friends with Fred Durst.
You know, Fred and I have been friends forever. So, and not as long as you and I, but we met, I think, probably like mid-90s at the Playboy Mansion. So like right when Limp was like really, really big, blowing up.
Yeah. And when they used to have the big Playboy Mansion parties, those are amazing. Those are amazing.
Exactly. And I was always there, you know?
Oh, yeah.
But Fred and I would like, you know, we'd call each other, we'd text each other like, oh man, check out my new music. Oh, check what I'm working on. Yeah, we got to hook up. Let's link up. Let's do something. And that went on for like 10 years. And then it got to a point where we almost got in a fight because I was like, I was mad at him because he kept flaking. And I was like, dude, what is the deal? Like, you keep saying you want to get together and do something, and then you flake on me. Like, I ain't got time for this. He's like, well, you want to go to Brawl? Let's go, bro. I was like, all right, let's go.
Oh, he was ignoring you.
So Fred, in other words, would rather brawl than do something musical with Corey.
Yeah, it seems like he was blowing him off because Corey was sending him his music, and Fred's going, yeah, this is good stuff, Corey. Yep, keep sending me your demos.
That's funny that Corey just can't take a hint. You have to tell him, no, you suck. I would never make music with you.
But Corey feels vindicated now because he finally went on tour with Fred Durst. And Drew, you and I were texting today. I think it might have more to do with Corey getting a lot of notoriety and attention on the internet.
Yeah, he's become
his band earning it.
Yeah, Fred thought it might be cool to have a lol cow as his opener.
And he was right.
He was.
I wouldn't have been at that show.
He should tour with him again, for sure. But that is funny that, yeah, you're right. Corey sounded so vindicated. Like, yeah, he's blowing me off all these years. And then finally, after all that time, he finds something that really worked for us musically. And it's like, no, that's not what it was, Corey.
It was called the Loserville Tour.
Right. And do you guys remember what their collaborations were on that tour? One was Fred came out and sat in a chair and watched Corey play a non-guitar solo.
Right.
And then the other one was at the end of the Limp Bizkit concert, Corey comes out and starts dancing like Michael Jackson to new metal.
That's true.
Well, people watch him and laugh.
Right. So that was some collab they finally, after 10 years, figured out.
Oh, boy.
One more clip on here, my clip 15. So Corey talks about how big this was for his band to get on this tour. And I take issue with some of this.
I'm very grateful to him. You know, we went from playing these venues that were like 1,800, 2,000, and we're packing them to like all of a sudden we're playing, 40,000, 50,000.
Dang, Corey, hang tight. We're going to have more with Corey Feldman coming up after a little more music.
First of all, Mario's not listening to him.
No, he's just got to hit the post.
How is that lame? They did not build that tour over time. The whole thing was booked ahead.
Also, so he was trying to say that when he goes out, just the Corey Feldman band, they played 2,000 people.
Okay.
But then when he was on this tour, it's 50,000 people. We were all there to watch his band.
Sure.
It was an eighth full.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. No, there were like, 400 people watching Corey, and eventually there'd be 18,000 like three bands later.
Correct. It was not that he was playing in front of 50,000 people in an arena. That's not what was happening on this.
So once Limp Bizkit's on stage, goes, hey, let's count and see how many people came to see us.
Right. Yes.
Come on, man. Wow. Is he that delusional? Maybe he is.
He's always been that way, though.
Yeah.
That's why we love Corey, because he'll talk about the box set and how amazing it is, and all the songs that he wrote that you've never even heard before for this soundtrack from the 80s. And when I put it on this demo, and now you can get on my box set, you're just like, Corey, no one cares. No one cares about your fucking music.
And there's only 250 of them. 50 of them are signed if you want to pay an extra $50. And then 4 years later, he's still trying to sell the fucking box set.
I can't believe we haven't bought that yet.
I know.
Maybe he'll break down and do it. That'd probably be worth opening up on the show.
Just for the comic book alone, I mean, some of the stuff that comes in there is going to be awesome.
And he's got Billboard top 40 hits, he says. I still don't know about that.
For which category that's in. So
Yeah.
before the final segment, Mario goes, all right, guys, stick around for the break. I got another question for Corey, so you're going to want to stick around for it. So I'm listening to it, and he goes, so where are you from originally? And I swear to God, that was their final conversation. Corey Feldman, who starred in the McDonald's commercial at the age of 3.
Right.
Where do you think he's from? He's from L.A.
Yeah.
So
Child actor all the
Mario
way.
obviously did zero preparation for this.
Correct. Yeah, because he was surprised by every answer that he got.
How does he have a radio show? I wonder what that is. Do you know?
Is he still on TV still? I don't watch those Inside Edition and whatever he's on.
Extra.
Does he host that every day?
Yeah, I think he does Extra. He's got this gig, and he's very good pals with Joe Francis from Girls Gone Wild. So he hangs out there
Mario hangs out with Joe Francis
all the time. Yeah.
Still?
I think he was the best man at
Oh,
his
that's
wedding.
right. Yeah, and he goes down to Mexico and hangs out.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
That's got to be creepy shit going on there. Joe wants Mario to pull in some chicks to do God knows what.
I can't believe that guy's a free man. I didn't know that.
Yeah, it is weird, but he can't come back to the U.S. for some reason.
Okay.
But he did. He also got robbed down. He's got a giant ranch with all his security. Apparently, his security turned on him and robbed him.
That's hilarious. You got to be a real piece of shit.
I think he's that.
That happened.
And somewhere, haven't we heard, Brandon, that there is a video of some guy with a gun to Joe Francis, and he makes him do something with a dildo, something like that, and he's filming it, and
That's always been I've never seen the video, but I've heard about it.
Can I order Joe Francis Gone Wild? Is this something I can watch? Sounds fun.
Yeah, I think he's afraid that someday you will be watching that.
So I'm guessing that Mario Lopez is too busy to do any of the prep himself. He probably shows up and goes, who's the guest today? Like, oh, Corey Feldman's coming on. I was like, oh, yeah, I know Corey. Okay, cool. And that's about it.
Whatever I got to find out what that is, because that's got to be in the nomination category for the most phoned-in radio show.
He learned from Ryan Seacrest, man. It reminded me like a Ryan Seacrest interview.
Yeah, has anything that wasn't forgettable ever happened when Ryan Seacrest was talking? I mean, I can't think of one thing where. Do you remember what Ryan Seacrest did? It'll never happen.
No, first year American Idol. I don't know.
Yeah,
Yeah, the Dunkelman.
he got rid of Dunkelman.
The Dunkelman days were awesome. Ryan was trying so hard to win that job. Dunkelman would be talking to somebody, and Ryan would always have to come in and have the last word. We used to save those clips.
Yeah,
they were hilarious.
Just to make a montage of every time he'd interrupt him or go, "Let's go" at the very end of a sentence.
Yeah, Dunkelman would introduce the artist like, and here's Justin Guarini doing Brown Sugar.
Here we go.
Yeah, here we go. Ryan would have to yell something as the music started.
And Dunkelman acted like he was too cool for that job, and he didn't want it anyway.
Yeah,
probably not a good move on his part.
Yeah. He was driving an Uber and doing a little stand-up last I heard. So
yeah, try to perform with Stuttering John.
How did he doesn't seem like the guy for even that original job though? How did he get that fucking job? That's so weird.
Spike. I don't know. He was the brunette to Ryan Seacrest's blonde.
Why do they need two guys for that?
Yeah.
Because they didn't believe neither one of them.
That show was going to be.
They probably thought neither one of these guys can do it, but maybe they can do it together somehow.
Yeah.
So what's coming up on Who Are These Podcasts this week?
Well, tomorrow we'll be live on our YouTube channel, which is at Karl, WATP, Karl with a K. And you can watch us 5:30 Eastern times when we start. My buddy Adam Bush is the co-host on Wednesdays. And we're going to be talking about Ethan Klein. If you guys know H3.
Oh, no, I don't like this guy.
Well, then you probably
he
like the
is-
show.
He's extremely unlikable. He's been around for a long time. He's got millions and millions of followers. Very wealthy guy. He's been having meltdowns lately. He's trying to battle subreddits that don't like him.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, he's going down that road. So it'll be interesting to see what's going on with Ethan Klein.
Yeah, that does not end well. Did you say live on YouTube for everyone to watch?
Correct. Yes, our shows on Wednesdays are live 5:30 Eastern time.
How long have you been doing that?
Just for a few weeks now.
Okay.
Cool.
I thought so. Great. All right, Carl. We'll see you tomorrow. And thanks so much.
Yeah, appreciate it.
Thanks,
Thanks
guys.
Carl. Take care.
See you.
See you.